Hi there mate, how's it going? It's Benja here and this is a breakdown and review of 1923 episode 3 titled The War Has Come Home. To kick off the third episode, the Dutton men race back to the ranch to their families and Cara is relieved to see Jacob because she had a bad feeling about this trip. Jacob confirms that something has indeed went down. In fact, they'll have to head into town the next day to inform the sheriff about it. The Duttons and their cowboys do that. They go to Bozeman, and Sheriff McDowell tells Jacob that he can't be hanging people out in the woods anymore. Jacob argues that bringing them here wouldn't have made a difference because a mob would have lynched and hanged them anyway. McDowell doesn't want a range war between cattle ranchers and sheepherders. He's busy enough dealing with cattle thieves out of Wyoming, but Jacob insists that the range war has already begun. Banner and his men ran their sheep on his ground and attacked them first, so he urges McDowell to get some deputies up to the mountains and keep the herders on their own land, quote, "or I'll do it, and you've seen how I do it," end quote. Jacob gets back to his family after chatting with a fellow rancher he hasn't seen in a while, and it's too late to travel back to the ranch now, so Jacob has already booked rooms at Hotel Bozeman to spend the night in town. Earlier in the day, we saw Cara and all the other Duttons going around in town. They talked to a salesman about new appliances like the washing machine and the refrigerator, and if they wanted, they could get electricity to the ranch, but they would have to rent these appliances, so for now it is a pass. At night, Jack and Elizabeth find a speakeasy and have some fun before going back to the hotel, where Elizabeth tells Jack she is worth the wait, but then she changes her mind and they do the deed. In the morning, as Jacob shaves, Cara goes on a rant about how razor companies are the representation of what's wrong with the humankind. Their greed has led them to come up with products for a woman, so now they shave their legs and under their arms, all of which she finds unnecessary. Jacob says it is a joy to listen to her babble on about utter nonsense. And before they head out, Cara catches Jacob looking himself in the mirror, and he wonders just when he's gotten this old. He has been so busy living his difficult life and surviving that he hasn't taken a moment to stop and think about that. Jacob tells all the cowboys to ride in front and the Dutton men will stay with the wagon. We know there's trouble coming at this point because a stranger spotted the Duttons in town on their first day and he got on his horse to inform Banner, who by this point had found his way home after cutting the noose in episode 2. Unsurprisingly, the Duttons are ambushed. Gunfire starts coming in from the tree line. Elizabeth is shot in the lower chest area, and Jack gets hit close to his shoulder, while Bob, Elizabeth's father, seems to be the first casualty. Everyone is able to get out of the wagon and take cover behind the trunk of a fallen tree, but Elizabeth is still on the wagon and it's on the move because the horses are spooked. So Jack goes after her and gets her, and they hide behind this big rock. Banner's men eventually come out and try to hunt them down, but the Duttons hold their own. That is until Banner flanks them from behind with what looks like a Tommy gun. Jacob tells Cara and Emma to run, and they do towards Jack and Elizabeth. Banner says he's a man of his word and starts spraying, managing to land quite a few bullets on Jacob and John. The Yellowstone cowboys make their way back to the wagon after hearing the gunshots, but they arrive just as Banner starts shooting and Cara and Emma are running toward the rock. So everyone except Bob, John and Jacob are saved by the cowboys. Some sheepherders are killed and others run away, including Banner. Cara goes back to the fallen tree to find John dead and Jacob badly injured. She then sees one of Banner's men. He is injured and she goes after him. They both have to reload and Cara is quicker, so she kills him. And this was the opening scene of the premiere. During that opening, Elsa's voiceover said that violence has always followed this family, and this was yet another example. The Duttons arrive back at the ranch with John and Bob dead, Jacob badly injured, Elizabeth needing urgent medical attention, and Jack with a relatively mild wound. Jacob knows that there's no coming back from this for him, so his sole focus is on keeping his family and this ranch safe, or as safe as possible. He orders Zane not to contact the sheriff because that would announce Jacob's death to the world, and in turn everyone would come after the ranch, including banks, miners, and thieves. Because of his situation and because John is dead, Jacob tells Cara that it's time for Spencer to come home now, and as a doctor and nurses rush into the house, Cara steps out and writes another letter to Spencer. Quote, "Spencer, your brother has been killed. By the time you receive this letter, I suppose your uncle has been killed as well. Your nephew has been wounded. This ranch and your legacy are in peril. War has descended upon this place and your family. Whatever war you fight within yourself must wait. You must come home and fight this one." End quote. Oof. Man, that was something. It's one of those what the heck moments that you need time to process because you don't know how things are going to shake out. So it's difficult to pass judgment. My immediate reaction though is that it's a shame how shallow John's character was. I was rooting for him and wanted to get to know him because we saw his childhood in 1883. We briefly saw him in Yellowstone flashbacks, but on this show he was nothing more than a background character. For a man that is most likely the ancestor of the new generation of Duttons we know in Yellowstone, John did not get enough screen time, attention, or depth, which is a massive problem in my opinion. And my issue isn't really with his destination or the conclusion of his story, it is with his journey, how he got here, and that journey is basically non-existent. As for Jacob, I kinda saw his downfall coming because it makes sense for this old character to pass the torch to the next generation, but I didn't think it would happen this soon, so it still surprised and shocked me, and I like the fact that his death is gonna back Duttons into a corner, and that'll make the show a lot more interesting, especially with Spencer coming back to Montana. But I have to say that even though I think Jacob is gonna die, it hasn't happened yet, so maybe there's a chance for him, I don't know. Let's turn our attention to Spencer now. He's hunting a spotted hyena in Kenya, and he goes on an adventure with Alexandra to show her the footprints of a child baked into a lava rock. He mentions this spot after Alexandra brings up Darwin's theory of evolution, and Spencer doesn't have an opinion on where humans come from, but he knows that they've been around these parts in Africa for a very long time, and because of that, they visit the footprint spot. Spencer hesitantly asks Alexandra if he can call her Alex, and she's fine with that, but she points out how difficult it would be for him to propose to her if it was this hard to ask about a nickname. Spencer's like, let's do it right now, and it takes a while for Alex to realize he is serious. Spencer doesn't get why they need to wait. He promises her that there are things about him that she won't like, so she doesn't need to wait around to realize that, and in the end it's settled. They're getting married. As they make their way back to the camp and have to stop because of elephants, Spencer talks about how they don't look real. And the way he describes them makes Alex realize that he's not just this hardened man, she sees the boy in him now. She sees what their boy would be like in him. And Spencer feels the same way. He sees their child in her. But this moment they're sharing is interrupted by an elephant that attacks and flips their car. He eventually has to shoot it, and they don't have enough time to hike back to the camp, so they climb up a tree, which isn't high enough, so as lions and hyenas surround the dead elephant at night, Spencer and Alex are eventually noticed. And as they get attacked, Spencer has to shoot some of them as Alex freaks out. Even though Spencer is good, this is a numbers game and they're eventually gonna get eaten, which is why they're happy to see some cars from the camp riding toward them and rescuing them. On the way back, Alex admits that she didn't feel alive when she looked death in the eye, which was her goal, that was the point of this adventure, but all she felt was horror, and she never wants to feel that way again. For a long time that was the only way Spencer could feel, that's how much the war scarred him, but that changed after he met Alex. He doesn't need to put himself in these dangerous situations anymore just to feel something. He feels love whenever he looks at Alex. So they agree that Spencer should put this life behind him now, which is definitely convenient and will allow him to travel back to Montana. But he's not going back to a calm and peaceful land that will give him and Alex a safe spot in this world. No, he's going back to war, and he's going to war with men, which is different from hunting down these dangerous animals. For the most part, he has a playbook in Africa. He can follow that and his abilities bring him success. He understands how different animals live and hunt and stalk and prey and ambush, but with men it's different, more unpredictable, and the horror he and Alex feel could be a lot more intense back in Montana. As Elsa says, violence follows the Duttons wherever they go, and Alex will come to understand that sooner rather than later. I'm a massive sucker for big twists and unexpected deaths in TV shows, so at first glance this episode looks tailor-made for me, And from a dramatic standpoint, it makes logical sense for Banner and his fellow herders to respond in such a violent manner. Banner becomes a scary and credible antagonist. He puts our protagonists in an unbelievably difficult spot, as the two most senior men are no longer around. And they've got this invaluable thing, the ranch, that everybody has an eye on. And not only do they have to deal with the tragedy of losing family members, their partners, fathers, and husbands, but they also have to remain alert and protect what's theirs. On top of that, this allows the most likable character on the show, Spencer, to join the main storyline. So all of this makes the story more interesting and intriguing and harder to figure out. In terms of the why and the how of this whole ordeal, it's perfect. What I don't like is how little time we had with John and how utterly forgettable he was. I'm sure I'll go back and forth on this after I think about it a bit more and after I read your comments. So share your thoughts down below, like the video if you've enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe for more movie reviews and TV show breakdowns. That is it for now, take care and see you in the next video.